what kind of offer if you're the Bears here? Like just play play house for a second here, right? What if a team came up and offered you for this pick? What would it have to be? Like if Washington wanted to move up one spot and take Caleb Williams, what kind of offer would it have to be? It would have to be extraordinary, yes?
It'd have to be extraordinary. It would have to be, honestly, for me, it would have to be 3, 4, maybe 4+ first-round picks. I mean, it's going to have to be into years into the future. It has to be something that is outrageously groundbreaking, which won't happen in that situation.
Yeah.
But you need to step back and see if there's maybe someone digging into the wine before the draft. I'm joking. Of course, it would never happen. You never know.
And then your owner has to be on board with it. And that's what's so hard. It's funny, a couple weeks ago, we were meeting with an NBA team about them going from 1 day of drafting to 2 days of drafting. And what was really interesting was this idea of like how fast the picks come in and how little time you have. 10 minutes doesn't feel like that long, but it's you really don't have the time, I think, to make a lot of these decisions. But somebody could come up and give the Bears a Godfather offer for Caleb Williams' pick, and they have to be prepared for that.
He looks a little agitated.
It's interesting. The pick is in, by the way.
Yes, pick is in.
And everybody, Ryan Poles hugging everybody here. Everybody in that room looking happy. The Bears, in all likelihood, have gotten their cornerstone quarterback. We have to wait for Roger Goodell to go ahead and say it. But yeah, and all indications is that it's Caleb Williams with the Bears' first pick, and we're moving on to Washington, who is in all likelihood. Now, we didn't know this last year at the time. We were surprised with the number 2 pick and the number 3 pick, but we are going to get Caleb Williams, I think, as the first pick for the Chicago Bears. So, Thomas, our second annual draft show, we're 1 pick in. Caleb Williams, Chicago Bears.
Here we are. I mean, yes, Caleb Williams. Nice call.
Thank you.
Eric,
well, I'm 1 for 1 so far. I'm 1 for 1 so far. Williams giving everybody some hugs, which would be great. He actually looks like he's relieved.
I think he's relieved. I mean, the guy's been waiting. He's been through all of the interviews at so many levels and the discussions and trying to dig into all the stuff that everyone's been wondering about.
Yep.
Just because they do. And there were people out there throwing darts just to see what would happen to the draft order. But of course, he's ready to go. What a really cool pick for that organization. Let's move forward on the third quarterback in how many years?
Well, let's even go through it, right? I mean, the Bears in this century, right? You're talking about Rex Grossman. You're talking about Jay Cutler. You're talking about obviously Mitch Trubisky and Justin Fields, and now Caleb Williams. The Bears, Thomas, have never had a 4,000-yard or 30 touchdown passer.
That's unbelievable to me. And how so.
Yeah, I mean, he hopefully is the first one. I mean, you'd hope that the Chicago Bears are going to pluck that one off the board here with Williams here, and the Bears are on the clock.
And that picture,
again, no trades, by the way. First 8 picks of the draft, no trades.
Okay. Well, no trades is very, very unbelievable and almost unfathomable. I'm watching the draft room here at the Falcons, which I spent many years at. Looks like they're doing the same thing there. They're spending time talking about the pick. They look relieved and happy that they got a quarterback for the future. And again, you're talking about a guy who has a lot that he brings to the table. They must have cleared up any of the injury concerns.
Well, he hasn't missed any. Like when you look at our models at Sumer, he has actually some really good projected games missed information, and he's mostly since getting to Washington, he has not been injured. I mean, I think he played through something a little bit last year, but for the most part, he's been healthy.
Right.
Not, I think it's a lot less than what you think. The reactions, though, our phones are both blowing up. That's why Thomas and I are kind of kneeling over with this news.
Yes, I'm sorry about. I just it's
first Falcons quarterback taken outside in the first 6 rounds since Thomas Dimitroff took Matt Ryan in 2008 with his first draft pick as the Falcons GM. So a watershed moment for Terry Fontenot and Raheem Morris and Arthur Blank and the hometown Atlanta Falcons here for us at Sumer. The Bears are back on the clock. They're at 9.
Okay. Okay, so let's. I mean, are we still talking Michael for a minute? Penix.
Let's talk Michael Penix.
Let's hang there. I mean, he looks like he's got 3D glasses on right now. He's a styling guy for sure, but I want to see what those glasses are because, they just look a little different. But point is, this guy obviously has everything they're looking for there, and I believe that they're thinking Kirk Cousins can school him for 2 years. And we have a guy that we can grow.
Well, I think they're also thinking.
Saying that.
I think they're also thinking that they've built a roster that doesn't have that many holes, Thomas. I mean, they need a pass rusher. They don't seem to have gotten one here. They need, they could use maybe another pass catcher. But for the most part, this isn't a terrible roster, Thomas. Right? This is a roster that underachieved last year, obviously with Arthur Smith. I think everybody would tell you that, but they're not a team that has glaring weaknesses. So take a quarterback, right? So that when the time comes, you're ready to move on to the future with him.
Lefty, like we say, stands in there. He's tough. He's resilient. He's competitive. He can ad lib in the pocket. He's not as athletic as the other guys that we're talking about. The first, the top three.
I think his movements in the pocket are subtle, and he does a good job of avoiding sacks. Like he doesn't take a ton of sacks, and he's got he's got a better than average arm.
He's throwing to some guys that can play, and Odunze is a heck of a football player. He can toss it in and drop it in here. Again, he's got command, and again, we were talking about this. The last left-hander. Tell me about him. Who was the last?
Tua was,
yeah.
But before that, you're talking about like Michael Vick,
yes,
in Atlanta. There's some history there. By the way, I want to get to the next pick because the Bears have picked Rome Odunze at 9, which is 2 straight Washington players. But then we have our first trade. The Vikings have moved up to 10 with the New York Jets. We don't know what the terms are of that trade yet. But Rome Odunze has gone to the Bears. So the Bears have Caleb Williams and now Rome Odunze as their take on the first part of the draft here. That's pretty solid for Chicago, Thomas. But we have our first trade, and it is the Minnesota Vikings trading into the top 10 with the New York Football Jets.
Okay.
That's just one pick. So they moved from 11 to 10, presumably to make sure that a team like Denver or Las Vegas couldn't leapfrog them. This has to be for a quarterback, correct, Thomas? This has to be for J.J. McCarthy.
It does. Are we moving there before we even
let's talk about I want to talk about the trade, but let's talk
I'm going to make sure that I didn't.
Let's talk about Rome Odunze for a second then.
Yeah, I mean, look, another guy, a strong guy who is not the most let's say he's not as explosive as the other two guys, right? He's not as, but he comes down and makes big time balls. He, in my mind, he's always been a top 10 to 15.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how high. I feel like that's a really good spot for him versus top 5, right? What I didn't want to see is him pop in front of Malik Neighbors, who there's a difference there in my mind. Again, and I think it's important to watch this. I'm excited for him to have another guy around, to continue.
So that offense, Thomas. Now you think about your best teams in Atlanta had pass catchers, right? A ton of them. You think about this Bears team: Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet. That's a pretty solid place for Caleb Williams to start.
I think for Caleb to start, the organization feels that, right? When you're the team builders there's nothing better than wrapping up your books tonight, right? And heading home, laying your head down on that bed and saying, my God, we took care of what we needed to do. Now we rock and roll the next part of this draft. However, how many picks do they have?
They only have 2 more picks the rest of the draft. So right. I bet you if the Vikings were not their division rival, they would have traded with them. But now, they only have 2 more picks left. Again, they got some pillar players, though, to your point. And I do think you're right about Odunze. I think a lot of people say that he's a complete player, but I think that masks the fact that he is not of the high-end caliber of Harrison or Neighbors. I think Odunze is a very good pick here, but you're not getting one of the 2 best. You're getting like Mike Evans to AJ Green and Julio Jones, which is a very good player, but not of that tippy top caliber there. So Rome Odunze is the pick.